Hello and good morning friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to continue with our series on marketing management, and we are going to talk specifically on green marketing as well as rural marketing. And for this discussion we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Garima Gupta. Dr. Garima Gupta is Associate Professor in Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. Dr. Gupta has immense experience, and through the live transmission she believes in giving the maximum of her knowledge. Dear friends, if you want to ask questions on green marketing and rural marketing from Dr. Garima Gupta, then you can call right in the CEC studios. You are requested to call in the last 10 minutes of the lecture, and for contacting us you need to dial our toll-free number. Our number is 1800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1800-110-430. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Garima Gupta, and let's try to have the insight into the two topics, that is green marketing and rural marketing. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Thank you ma'am. Okay students, very good morning. Today we have planned a session on green marketing and rural marketing. You have got an in-depth understanding of what marketing is all about. The 4 P's have also been dealt with in detail. So for your benefit, we thought we should talk about some of the contemporary applications of marketing in modern times. And green marketing is one such area which needs our attention. Now students, what actually is green marketing? We have seen that over the years, environmental activism has led to various kind of legislations, and firms are now required to comply with various sort of regulatory mechanisms which ensure that the companies are producing the products which are not putting any sort of a detrimental impact on environment. The products and services therefore are made ecologically safe or ecologically friendly. Therefore, green marketing can also be understood as environmental marketing or ecological marketing. Now students, some of the arguments which can be given in favor of practicing green marketing are that the customers are increasingly becoming aware of the causes and the effects of a polluted environment. Aware consumers therefore form interest groups and promote eco-friendly products and legislations. These legislations we see in India in the form of Environmental Protection Act, the Water Prevention and Pollution Control, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution, some sort of legislations which are also covered under Indian Penal Code, the legislation related to various kind of regulatory mechanisms which ensure that the environment stay protected. So given the choice, the consumers also want to come up with the product offerings where the marketer is into the services or into the products which can be considered as eco-friendly. Now students, the greater exhibit is there which talks about that there has been a rising consciousness and action towards green marketing efforts or towards the procurement of eco-friendly products. Some of the reasons which can be cited in favor of this kind of rising consciousness are as follows. Like, there has been a reduced use of plastics over the year or plastic based products, and some of the jute products and the cotton paperback kind of packaging has taken over the plastic packaging. There's an increased use of herbal medicines, natural therapy, yoga. There has been increased use of biofertilizers and organic farming. There has been increased focus on pure products like edible items, fruits, vegetables, or number of people we also see are moving towards going vegetarian. Declaration of 5th June as the World Environment Day also is one such effort in the direction of coming up with practices which are more environmental friendly. There are more strict norms for pollution control. All this is duly captured in the marketing activities of organizations, and therefore we see that green marketing is typically practiced by companies that are committed to sustainable development and corporate social responsibility. The concept of green marketing therefore revolves around protection of ecological environment and also emphasizes on protection of long-term welfare of consumers and society at large through the production and use of the products, services which are not only of high quality but also take care of the environmental resources and environmental at large. We also see some of the initiatives in this regard, like the use of solar panels, the use of various other kind of technological innovations which has led over the years to the production of goods and services which can be termed as eco-friendly. Let us now define what is green marketing. Now, when you talk about green marketing, one can look at three different perspectives. One is the retail perspective, which defines green marketing as the marketing of products that are presumed to be environmentally safe. The social marketing perspective talks about green marketing as the development and marketing of products that are designed to minimize negative effects on the physical environment or to improve the quality. The environmental definition of green marketing again talks about the efforts by organizations to produce, promote, package and reclaim the products in a manner that is sensitive or responsive to ecological concerns. In nutshell, therefore, we can understand the initiatives taken by organizations to practice green marketing are duly recognized due to the factors such as a greater opportunity to work in the green product area. So, the organizations, they perceive the environmental marketing to be one such opportunity which can be used to achieve the broader goals. Similarly, the organizations believe that they have a moral obligations to be more socially responsible. We know that organizations, though they are business entities, but they are part of the society. They operate within the social structure and draw various resources from the society. Now, when the organizations draw resources from the society, it therefore is just and fair that the corporates should also exercise their social responsibility in terms of giving something back to the society, and that is something which is being exercised in the form of production of the goods and the services which can be termed as environmental friendly. Similarly, the government bodies over the years have been focusing more on the aspects which relate to the concern and the protection of environment. We have already seen that there are certain legislations which have been formulated by the government from time to time, like the Act related to environmental protection, the Act related to air and water pollution, and so on and so forth. Now, these legislations ensure that corporates assume it as their responsibility through government intervention and otherwise, and ensure that there is proper care and protection of environmental resources as well as environment at large. The competing offering also sometimes put a pressure on the corporates to behave in a more responsible manner, and there the green initiatives and the green marketing efforts of the corporates are often seen as one key factor of differentiating your product offerings from that of the rival firms. So, the competing environmental activities actually put a pressure on organization to change their marketing practices and make it more in tune with the environment. Similarly, certain cost factors which are associated with waste disposal or reduction in the material usage forces the organizations to modify their behavior and come up with the products which are more green in nature. If we compare the green marketing efforts of any organization vis-a-vis the traditional marketing efforts, we find that the difference lies in various parameters, starting from the goals or the broader objective. So, where the traditional marketing actually focuses on the satisfaction of the customer, the green marketing efforts is going to focus on the customer satisfaction, but by ensuring that there is ecosystem sustainability also. Similarly, when you talk about the time perspective or you talk about the long-term vision, we find that the traditional marketing may have the impact and may have the objectives which can be fulfilled in a short term. Whereas when you talk about the green marketing efforts and the green marketing strategies, they usually have a long-term orientation and a long-term perspective. Going by what kind of responsibility we generally find the companies adhering to the green marketing initiatives adopt. We find that in case of traditional marketing, it is generally considered to be a public sector responsibility, where the corporates feel that basically the state or the governments should initiate all the efforts into making the environmental free of any sort of a detrimental impact. But when you talk about the green marketing initiatives or the green marketing practices, we find that the corporate also assumes this as its responsibility to work in a greener way. So it is usually considered to be a joint public-private kind of an agreement, where both the private sector as well as the government feel mutually responsible to do something for the environment. When you talk about the quality focus, again in the traditional marketing, we find that total quality management is something which is usually practiced. So you try to come up with the goods and services which are very high on quality. But when you talk about the green marketing, there is a total quality environmental management. So not only we are trying to emphasize on the products which are high on quality, but at the same time we are also trying to maintain the quality of the environment. When you talk about the ecological accounting, we find that in case of traditional marketing, there is generally no place for ecological cost or accounting for the ecological cost. But the corporates which practice green marketing or the ecological marketing, they definitely go for full accounting of ecological cost. So these were some of the parameters on which one can clearly place a distinction between how the traditional marketing efforts would be very different from the green marketing efforts of an organization. Students, moving ahead, let us understand that when an organization is practicing green marketing, it would also be doing something so as to align its marketing mix strategies to its broader goal of environmental protection. So let us now understand about how green marketing mix is going to be different from the traditional marketing mix, and in what ways we would be introducing certain kind of changes in our 4 Ps so as to craft a strategy which is going to give you a product and service which is more environmental friendly. So we consider here the ecosystems which are the more critical element in the entire marketing mix decision making. Also, the 2 key inputs which feature in our marketing mix paradigm would generally revolve around adoption of an integrated approach to the waste management, and secondly the product design and packaging is to assume that kind of an importance, so by so much so that you are able to come up with the products which are more green in nature. Coming up with a discussion on what in fact is then my green product strategy. Now the basic path which a marketer has to adopt is that you have to come up with the strategies to market a green product. Now marketing a green product is generally done by highlighting the green benefits or attributes. So in what way the product is differentiable from the other offerings which are available in the market. The green product generally makes use of green materials and green processes. So if one has to outline the characteristics of the green products, one would find that these kind of products are originally green, they are recyclable, reusable and biodegradable. These are the products which generally have natural ingredients in place. These are the products which go for eco-friendly production processes, manufacturing processes, packaging processes. So everything is done so that there is no harm on the environment and the environment is not further polluted. When you talk about the pricing part of the green products, we generally find that the major barrier which is there in the pricing of the green products is that people are not often willing to pay a higher price for the green products. And the reason why the green products are more expensive is the fact that you have to introduce certain changes in your manufacturing processes, in your production processes, in your packaging. You may have to adopt some innovative ideas in order to come up with the offerings which are more greener, as a result of which your cost goes up, and in order to cover up this cost, high pricing is to be borne by the consumers, which usually they are unwilling to pay. but the advantage can definitely be communicated, and by communicating those advantages in the form of cost savings that a consumer is going to get by using these green products in nature can be appropriately communicated to the consumers to convince them to go for the purchase of the green products, even though they cost you a little higher. So the strategy is to then talk about the cost efficient benefits of the green products in long run. Say for example, there are products which come with eco labels and Energy Star labels, and these products are often marketed in the sense that you try to convince the consumers and educate the consumers at the same time about the savings that the consumer is going to make on their monthly bills and energy consumption if they go for such kind of green appliances or energy efficient appliances. So the focus basically has to be on long term life cycle of the product and long term life cycle costing of the product, which is going to give you some sort of an assessment as to how these products should be priced. We also talk about the place and the promotion of the green products, and we find that when you talk about the green place and green promotions, the choice of when and where to make a product available is usually going to have a significant impact. The reason is that we cannot expect the consumers to go out of way in order to procure the green products. So the accessibility of the green products has to be eased out. So if the product is very easily available, the chances or the probability is going to improve many folds that the consumers could be convinced to use the green products. Also at the same time, the aim of the marketeer should be to reduce the carbon footprints by way of managing the logistics in such a manner so that your transportation emanations go down. When you talk about the communication part of it, or what we say is green promotion, we try to make the advertising more green in nature. Now what we mean by that, all your promotions and all your communication should be addressed so as to form a good relationship between the product and environment. Also, we need to educate the consumers about long-term ecological benefits and values. So your ad campaigns, your promotional campaigns should talk about how this is going to provide you a value addition. So how using of the green products is the ultimate solution to your problem. Not only it is helping you in taking care of your environment and using the resources which are available in the environment in such a manner that you are not only using them presently in an optimal way, but you are also using something for the future generation to use. We also try to promote green lifestyles in the ad campaigns and in the promotional messages so that the idea sinks in that one has to take care of the environment at large. And finally, the promotion also may deal with presenting the benefits of using the green products in such a manner so that the corporate image of environmentally responsible organization also is communicated. We can now discuss a number of examples where we see that the companies both in India and abroad, or we can say all across the globe, have made over the years significant contribution in practicing green marketing. The case in point is some of the corporates which we are going to discuss next, starting with the functioning of ITC Limited. Now we see that this is a particular organization that has strengthened its commitment to going green by adopting the technologies of something which is more related with going more green in terms of the products and services which are being offered. We see that they have over the period of time introduced certain ozone treated elemental chlorine free bleaching technology for first time in India. The result is that there has been an entire range of new products which are more green and which also provide a green solution to the consumers, like the environmental friendly multi-purpose paper that is less polluting in nature than its traditional counterpart. Similarly, we take the case of Maruti Udyog Limited. We find that over the period of time, they have gone in for greening of their supply chain. Not only the company is able to recycle 100% of its treated wastewater, but is also able to reduce the fresh water consumption. It has implemented rainwater harvesting in a big way, has gone in for recyclable packaging for bought out components, and has also facilitated the implementation of environmental management systems, what is also known as EMS, at its suppliers' place. We also see Starbucks as practicing green marketing in multiple ways, coming with reusable cups, greener stores, recycling done in the stores itself, building stores and the buildings which are more energy driven. Water consumption in these stores and the Starbucks outlet has been reduced considerably. They have also empowered greener partners, and their goal is to engage 10,000 partners globally by 2020, which is nothing but a Greener Apron program which was launched by Starbucks in 2016. Comparing it with Wipro, we find that though the technology sector is completely differently driven, we still find that Wipro has come up in a big way by launching desktops and the laptops which are known as Wipro's greenwares. Wipro has also developed eco-sustainability in the form of energy, water efficiency, and also waste management. Wipro designs the products and the solutions which can minimize hazardous waste, and close to 18 buildings are certified to the international green standards. If we take the example of HUL again in India, we find that packaging designs and formats have been changed to reduce the usage of plastics. Similarly, they have enhanced the usage of biomass-based fuels. They have redesigned the packaging, rainwater harvesting. Surf Excel detergent under HUL has helped to save 2 buckets of water per wash, and something which has been duly communicated in the campaigns also. There has been a shift towards low GSM alternatives in cartons of brands like Dove, Fair and Lovely and Peers, which has considerably decreased the usage of paper and board. And ONGC again has made its own initiative to come across a change with the invention of green crematoriums that would serve as a perfect replacement for the funeral pyres that emit so much smoke and use up the excess oxygen. So students, we see that there are many ways in which the companies have come up with this. But there is a word of caution. We are often also presented with some of the products and services where we find that there is a green washing, because these companies, they use green color in their packaging or a word of green somewhere in their messaging, when there is neither any activity related to the production of eco-friendly products, nor there is any sort of eco-friendliness when you compare these kind of products with the competing products. The example is meat products and the herbal essences. Often we find claims related to meat products that they are something which is going to give you a healthy diet, something which is going to be organic in nature, something which is not having any artificial preservatives and chemicals. But there is no way in which the consumers can actually check those claims. Now, we can conclude the discussion by saying that yes, eco-marketing has come to acquire a significant place in the industry. We also have seen that consumers have actively come forth in expressing their willingness to adopt a resource-intensive lifestyle, and therefore they usually look forward to the products and services which do not put any detrimental impact on the environment. Green marketing actually recognizes the fact that marketing actions of the firm has a more longer and everlasting impact on the use of resources, generation of waste and subsequent pollution. And therefore, sustainable marketing is required, which in turn is nothing but a development of a marketing mix which is going to be more compatible with the ecology. So when we come to think of it, we can come to think of the sustainable marketing practices which take into account all 3 P's. There is a consideration for planet, for people, as well as some sort of profitability which the organization is able to reap for itself. So it's a triple P model which the corporates have assumed of late. But a practice of becoming more green in nature is not devoid of its own challenges, and we find that some of the challenges which are often encountered by the companies who are practicing green market is that the green products, they generally require renewable and recyclable processes and recyclable materials which generally cost very high, and therefore the challenge is how to bring down the cost and how to make the green products more affordable and more easy for the consumers to purchase. Similarly, going green sometimes requires a technological change or an innovation, something which is better than the traditional marketing products are able to provide you, which in turn requires a huge investment in your research and development. Majority of the people are also not aware of the green products and their uses. So one needs to educate and bring in an awareness level which therefore is required in order to come up with strategies which are going to benefit the consumers by protecting the environment. The consumer often see green labeling as a marketing gimmick. So some sort of a credibility if it is attached is going to go a long way in having more susceptibility and more favorable attitude and perception about the products which are green. Majority of the consumers are also not willing to pay a premium price of the green products, and for this I have already stated that one has to bring in some sort of education and some sort of messages where the green products can be linked and the green pricing can be linked to their overall life term benefit which they are going to have for the consumers. So in future we can say that one needs to, the marketeer in fact needs to work on consumer value positioning. They need to design the environmental product so as to better perform in terms of the alternatives which are available. There has to be calibration of consumer knowledge, and one needs to educate the consumers with the marketing messages that connect well with the environmental attributes. And at the same time there has to be some credibility of the product claim, whereby you have to make some efforts in order to procure the product endorsements or eco certification from the trustworthy third parties. So I am sure students at the end of the lecture you would have gained some knowledge about green marketing. Thank you. Okay students, welcome back. Now in this session we would be learning about rural marketing. Now let us first try to understand as to what is rural marketing. As per the definition by National Council of Applied Economic Research, rural marketing is a market that exists in the rural area with a population of less than 10,000, where the area density of population at any population nucleation is low without any significant infrastructure. So we understand that rural marketing therefore is a process of delivering a better standard of living and quality of life to the rural areas, taking into consideration the prevailing social structure of the rural people. Students, we do understand that over the years marketing has focused duly on the urban counterparts. Now there is a need to tap the untapped resources which are lying at the bottom of the pyramid, and therefore corporates have come up in a big way in order to cater to the needs of the rural consumers, and through the products and offerings which are made to the rural consumers, an attempt is made to improve their standard of living and quality of life. Some of the figures which duly support the use of green marketing and rural marketing initiatives in the recent times suggest that these are some of the contemporary issues which have required and which have gained the attention of the corporates. Some of the similar statistics in line of the rural marketing also suggest us that corporates do consider an untapped potential which is lying in the form of the rural markets. We see through the reports that the fast moving consumer goods sector in rural and the semi-urban area is estimated to cross around $100 million by 2025. We also see that the rural FMCG market is anticipated to expand at a CAGR of 17.41% to $100 billion during 2009 to a period of 2025. Amongst the leading retailers, we find the organizations like or the brands like Dabur generating over 40 to 45% of its domestic revenue from rural sales only. Similarly, HUL rural revenue accounts for close to 45% of its overall sales, while the other companies earned close to 30 to 35% of their revenues from the rural areas, which gives us a hint that these are the organizations, leading ones, which are investing a considerable amount of resources and time in catering to the needs of the rural consumers. Let us first of all try as to what is the nature of the rural markets. So our understanding of the rural market will then help us in coming up with the policies and the strategies which will enable the corporates in order to design the marketing mix more compatibly to the rural people or the rural consumers. When we talk about understanding the rural markets and the rural consumers, we find that the primary expenditure of a rural customer is on satisfying the daily physiological needs. So the rural consumer is still at a lower level of its satisfaction of needs. So let's say we go by the need gratification he is looking for is something which is at the basic level. So the basic sustenance of food, clothing and shelter is what the rural consumer is looking at. Rural marketing also offers significant opportunities for different kinds of consumer goods in these areas like the food, clothing and shelter. Similarly, we find the educational profile where the literacy has improved through the use of the mass audio-visual media. One can connect with the rural consumers in an effective manner. We also find that the income levels are generally low. In fact, the income is usually very fluctuating in nature, where the rural consumer is more price sensitive and seeks value because of the fact that there is a less disposable income at the hands of the rural consumer. If we look at the consumption pattern of the rural markets, we find that they majorly differ because of a change in the income levels. They do not have that much of the income with them, and therefore the products are demand which are able to seek their satisfaction level at low affordable prices. Reference groups in the rural markets we find exert a very strong influence. So if the village mukhia or if the village panchayat endorses some product, or if an educated person from the village comes forward and endorses a product, it is going to have a good impact on the mindset of rural consumers. When we talk about the media habits, we find that the rural consumer is generally very fond of music and folklore, and at the same time is very highly brand conscious, and that is perhaps the reason that Ghadi detergent is the third largest brand in terms of its consumption in rural India. When we talk about the major decisions related to the product, pricing, place and promotion in the rural setting, we find that when it comes to the product decisions, the products, they have to be very, very simple. They have to be very easy to use. Any sort of a complexity in the product which requires a lot of demonstration and explaining does not usually work in the hinterlands. So we find that the product should be more simpler, easy to use. They should be in a form which is very easy for them to maintain in the long run. Products often should be backed by literature, in the sense that whatever is there should be presented well in the form of visuals, in the form of graphics, in the form of photographs, so that a person is able to understand as to how the product is to be used and how the product is going to benefit them at the end of the day. We also find that the product should be available in small dispensable units. So, it's a smaller SKUs of the product generally work well in the rural markets. Brand identity is often created through visual logo of the product or through the color or through the taste of the product, because we generally find, because of low literacy levels, people are able to relate well with the color and the visuals rather than what is being written on the package. So, people generally recognize soaps by the color. So, it's a red color soap, or because of some sort of a logo which is printed on the packaging, which helps them in identifying one product from the other product, and that is the reason why the counterfeit products are generally very high when it comes to rural markets. The marketeer has basically different options in the form of going for extensions which are specifically done for the rural market, which we see Lux has done in the past. They also have an option of adapting the products which are there in the urban markets to something which is more affordable and something which is more workable in the rural markets, like Cabin Care shampoo, which is now available in sachet packs, and some sort of an innovative strategies where we see that electrical items are available which can be operated without the power or the electricity consumption. So, we find these strategies when it comes to the product generally revolve around understanding the characteristics of the rural market and also the characteristics of the consumers who are going to use them at the end of the day. So, some of the strategies that we can suggest for the marketeers who want to foray into the rural markets are like coming up with packaging which is very strong. So, it's only through the packaging that you are able to connect with the rural consumer. So, you have to make it very easy, you have to make it very convenient for them, and you have to make use of certain colors and logos which are going to give that kind of an appeal to the product, so that it stands out for a rural consumer and is very easily differentiable. There are utility oriented products which generally work well, and at the same time the rural consumers, they generally look for the products which are high on durability. So, sturdy nature of the products is generally which is going to work, especially given the fact that the rural consumers are going in for the products which are satisfying their physiological needs. One needs to invest in more utility oriented offerings. After sales service is going to play a major role when it comes to product decisions for the rural markets. One needs to ensure that there is an avoidance of spurious or counterfeit products. There are small unit and low priced packings which are made available to them, and also the labeling requirements should ensure that there are easy directions for use which are available on the package, so that the person is able to easily comprehend and use the product in the form in which it is to be used. When it comes to pricing decisions which are to be undertaken, we find that the products obviously have to be made more affordable for rural consumers, given the fact that the income is not that regular and the income is not that high. Similarly, the purchases have to be facilitated through rural banks and the higher purchase offers, rather than expecting the rural consumers to be shelling out a huge sum of money at the time of making the purchase of the product. You have to offer the products which come in small SKUs. Also, we find that there is often a storage problem, and therefore the consumers do not prefer the products which come in bigger bottles or the cans. Instead, we have to come up with the products which are small unit packing, so that not only it provides convenience to the consumers to use it, but it is also going to cost less and is going to be priced more affordably, given in line the rural mindset and the rural disposable income. Often the companies in this direction have started coming up with refill packs that turn out to be more economical, and they also have avoided sophisticated packaging which often adds to the cost of the product in their attempt to bring down the pricing for the rural consumers and for the rural markets as a whole. When we talk about the distribution strategies which generally the companies adopt for the rural markets, we find that firms, they adopt a distribution strategy where they would be able to connect with the rural consumers through the ways and means like the village haats, the village bazaars, mobile vans, some sort of decorations and some sort of say point of purchase displays which are done on the counters which operate as small kirana stores in the villages. So we see that the rural postman and the rural villagers, they play a massive role in actually assuming the distribution. Firms also link the small grocers, which we call as the village grocers, which act as say a linking pin between the marketeer and the consumers. They often also work through a wholesale distributor when it comes to the rural markets. Over the years, we find that there has been development of organized retail stores in the rural markets also, like ITC Chaupal, Sagar, Mahindra and Mahindra's Shubh Labh stores, and so on and so forth. We also seen the presence of cooperative stores and some sort of supermarket stores which operate in the rural markets in order to provide that kind of ease of distribution and make those kind of products which are available in the urban markets equally accessible to the rural consumers and to the rural markets. When you talk about the promotional decisions, again, as I have told you that rural consumers, because of their literacy levels and because of their exposure to certain kind of media platforms which they are more exposed to, like radio and the music and the folklore, these are generally the media platforms which are tapped in order to connect well with the rural markets and in turn the rural consumers. So we find that it is visual copy which is going to have a greater appeal with the rural consumers and the rural markets than only having the audio or the print. So we'd say if you are having a very text loaded informational copy, it is not going to have much sense when it comes to the rural consumers and the markets. Instead, if you work on the copy part which has more of pictures, which has more of designing, which has more of graphics, that is going to help in providing that kind of knowledge about the product to the rural consumers. Similarly, when you talk of using the media platforms, radio is something which turns out to be most effective. In addition to that, some sort of paintings on the walls, some sort of say very easy messages, one line messages, some sort of endorsements by the celebrities or by a person which assumes the role of being an opinion leader in the village or in the rural areas also has a significant impact in shaping up the mindset of the rural markets. At times we find that rural fairs and hearts also play an important role, and local young people who are better educated can also be roped in for making a personal communication and personal selling efforts with the rural consumers. But having said all this, we still find that there are a lot of challenges which one has to encounter when you face the rural markets, and these challenges are presented in the form of multiple factors and multiple aspects. Like, we often find that the villages are widely scattered. Now this gives rise to the problem of distribution and the problem of making the products available in varied forms to the rural market. So as a result, we generally find 3-4 brands which are available, and that too only a limited number of options which can be made available to the rural consumers. We find that the literacy levels are considerably low, and therefore one has to really work on devising the strategies which can connect with the consumers in a different manner. So just very informative messages probably are not going to work, but you have to rope in people, and you have to rope in more informal sources in order to connect with them. We also find that there are considerable problems related to the storage and the warehousing aspects, and therefore in order to cater to these kind of challenges, one has to come up with small SKU products. There is also inadequate banking and credit facilities, and therefore the pricing has to be made more affordable, because there is no such institution which is going to lend them with money which is required for buying the products for their daily use. We also find that rural consumers at times are bounded by some sort of a behavior which is more rooted in the tradition, more rooted in the form of customs, which say they still feel that probably there are certain products which should not be used, and there are certain products which are to be used only because they are the ones which are best for their health and for their skin, and so on and so forth. So we find they are not too much ready to experiment with the products, but at the same time exhibit a considerable degree of brand consciousness, and therefore slowly and gradually the marketeers have to pave way towards penetrating into the rural markets. There is often also an unwillingness which is shown on the part of sales representatives to reach out to the rural areas because of some of these challenges that we have discussed now. So, it's though the sales representatives or the company's own task force can be roped in order to go to these rural areas, connect with the people and inform them, and also take back this kind of a feedback as to what is going to work in terms of product design, what is going to work in terms of distribution channels and communication mix for the rural consumers. But because people are not very forthcoming in the organizations and they are not very willing to migrate to the rural areas and connect with the rural people, one has to look for the alternate mechanisms, and the companies over the period of time have definitely devised ways to effectively tap the rural markets. In order to conclude, we can say that there are enough opportunities which are present in the rural markets, but the need is to be aware of the fact that there is huge potential present at the bottom of the pyramid, and slowly and gradually one has to pave way towards marketing those goods and services which are going to be accepted by the rural consumers in the form which has more utility for them. So, the growth opportunities in the rural markets are basically driving the companies towards them. So, one has to see what is going to work and not. To quote here an example, we have seen in the past that mobile companies have come up with the handsets which are more utility oriented rather than coming up with the handsets which are more fancy in nature. So, when you are connecting with the rural markets, you try to develop the products which are going to give you an opportunity to penetrate deeper, because the product is going to have uses for the rural consumers, like torch, like radio, like some other facilities which are inbuilt in the configuration of the mobile handset, which is going to make it more appealable to the rural consumers. We also see that social economic changes are sweeping. We see that there is a rising income trend even in the rural markets. There is a higher aspiration level in the minds of the rural people. They also want to use the products which are available in the urban markets. They are also equally brand conscious, but at the same time we find that they are also value conscious. So, something which is going to satisfy an urban consumer in terms of taking care of their hedonic needs is something which probably is not going to connect well with the rural consumer. You have to come forward with the economic saving and the economic benefit of using that particular product, along with the utility which it is going to give to the rural markets. We also find that information and communication technology are drivers of change in these markets. So, over the period we find that rural consumers and the rural markets are equally connected with the marketeers, and they also have those kind of facilities available in the villages and in the rural places which probably the consumers of the urban markets are enjoying. So, it is largely due to the changes in the information technology that we find that even the rural consumers are aware of all kinds of brands which are available in the urban markets, and they are also exhibiting that kind of an aspiration to use those brands. Marketing mix decisions we find in the rural markets, they generally revolve around whether to extend or adapt the urban marketing strategies to suit the rural markets. We here also find that often the companies try to adapt their marketing mix to the hinterlands, in the sense that first a product is launched in the urban market, and afterwards some sort of a modification and adaptation strategies are imposed on the product in order to make it more workable and in order to make it more feasible to offer certain kind of satisfaction to the rural consumers. Generally, therefore, as a conclusion, we can suggest that instead of typically working on 4P structure as we find in the marketing strategies of people who come up with the product offerings for the urban consumers, what is going to work is a greater consideration of 4 A's, and these A's are: 1, availability. So the marketeers, they have to understand that they have to focus on making the products available to the rural consumers. The challenges no doubt are there, but given those challenges, one has to ensure that the product reach out to the consumer. So it's only when you ensure that the product is available to the rural consumers, then only you can come forward with that kind of education and conviction that this is how it is going to make their life better, and this is how this is going to solve their problems in the better manner. The second aspect under A is affordability. So if you want the rural consumers to respond, if you want the rural consumers to buy the products, it is very important that you make the pricing strategy a little more affordable, so that given the erratic pattern of their income, they are still able to afford those goods and services. You have to also look as a marketeer towards the acceptability. So what is going to make people accept those products? In that, I have already suggested that the acceptability comes broadly if an opinion leader from the village itself comes forth and talks about it. Often at times we see there are campaigns run on the mass media platforms like televisions and radio, where they talk about, say, how the use of certain things is going to make your life easy, and this is something which you should be using, like maintaining good health and hygiene. So Lifebuoy has also taken this initiative in the past by connecting to the rural markets, acquainting them with the advantages of washing your hands before every meal, and therefore the soap and the use of the soap, whichever brand it is, has now seen greater presence and penetration in the rural market. So they have slowly and gradually acquainting themselves to the use of certain kind of products which will help them in maintaining and improving their current standard of living, and also taking care of certain diseases and certain kind of other problems which crop up because they are not being made available, those products, or the acceptability has to reach a certain standard. We need to therefore rope in the programs which are going to make it more aware, the rural consumer more aware of the presence of certain goods and services which are exclusively made for the rural markets. In nutshell, we can say, students, that the corporates have devised strategies over the years to connect better to the rural markets. We also understand, in fact, the corporates have also understood the fact that whole lot many efforts are required in order to connect because of the challenges which are inherent in the system, which are inherent in the rural markets. But I am sure that through some of these strategies that we have discussed in the course of the discussion, the marketeers in future would be able to connect better with the rural markets and would be able to exploit all those untapped profit opportunities which lie at the hinterlands. Thank you, students. I am sure that at the end of this lecture, you would have gained knowledge about how marketing can be practiced and how can it be linked to some of the contemporary areas, like talking about marketing of services, talking about marketing of green products, and making your environment more sustainable in nature, and towards the end, how we can, through our change in the marketing mix paradigm, connect better with the rural markets, therefore giving rise to whole rural marketing shift. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us a productive session once again. And dear friends, we are on the verge of completing the series on marketing management. So I would like to ask Dr. Garima Gupta, what else we are going to study in the forthcoming sessions, as we are going to wind up the series very soon.
Yes, ma'am. We would be covering some of the aspects related to marketing of services. We would also try to give you ample understanding of some of the other aspects related to e-marketing, related to direct marketing, and how the companies are adopting direct marketing and multi-level marketing in connecting with the consumers.
Definitely, dear friends, we would be covering all what Dr. Garima Gupta has explained right now. And friends, we have uploaded all the lectures pertaining to the series Marketing Management, which we have conducted, and all the lectures are there for you on the YouTube. Now, it is your duty to look at all the lectures and listen to them deliberately, and if afterwards, if you feel that there are some questions which you are required to get answer, for that you need to write to us at info.cec@nic.in. Dear friends, you are requested again and again to post your questions as well as your feedbacks, as well as your suggestions regarding the entire series, as well as if you feel so that there is any area which has left uncovered, then also you can write to us. We will try to conduct a special session for you under the series Marketing Management, and yes, your questions will be definitely sorted out and will be answered in the live session when next time Dr. Garima Gupta visits our studio. So dear friends, keep watching us and keep writing us. As I said, your feedbacks are important. So ma'am, with this note, we would like to thank you once again for giving us a precious session. Thank you, friends.